Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into Morgan Housel's incredible book, The Psychology of Money. And look, its main idea is pretty simple, but it goes against almost everything we're taught. Getting good with money has very little to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you act.
So let's just jump right in with a real-life puzzle that kind of turns everything we think about money on its head. How on earth does a janitor build an $8 million fortune while a top finance exec with all the credentials in the world loses everything? It sounds like a riddle, but it's not. It's a true story, and it tells us something profound.
And the answer gets us right to the core of this book. When it comes to your money, how you behave is so much more important than how big your brain is. We treat finance like it's physics, with all these rules and formulas, but it's not. It's messy, it's emotional, it's human.
Okay, just look at this contrast. It's wild. On one side, you've got Ronald Reed. This guy wasn't some Wall Street genius. He was a janitor. His superpower? Patience. That's it. He just saved a little bit, consistently, and waited. For decades. On the other side, Richard Fusone. He had the Harvard degree, the big job, all of it. But none of that could save him from greed and taking on way too much risk.
So this is the big takeaway, right? Financial success isn't a hard science. It's a soft skill. It's about how you handle fear and greed. It's about having discipline when others are panicking. A genius who can't control their emotions is going to go broke. But an ordinary person who has their behavior in check, they can build a fortune.
So behavior is a huge piece of the puzzle, but it's not the only invisible force at play here. There are a couple of other things that we tend to completely ignore, and we do it at our own risk. I'm talking about luck and its twin sister risk.
Let's talk about Bill Gates for a second. We all think of him as a visionary, a genius, and he is. But his journey started with just an unbelievable stroke of luck. He just happened to go to one of the only high schools on the entire planet that had a computer in 1968.
I mean, seriously? What are the odds? For a teenager to be at a school like that back then, it was literally 1 in a million. He didn't earn that. He didn't scheme his way into it. He just got lucky. He was in the right place at the absolute right time.
But for every story of incredible luck, there's a flip side. For Bill Gates, there was his friend Ken Evans, just as smart, just as passionate about computers. But he was hit by the other side of that coin, risk. He died in a mountaineering accident before he even graduated. 1 in a million luck for Gates, 1 in a million risk for Evans. It's a powerful, humbling reminder, isn't it?
And what this all really shows us is that we're never completely in control. Our biggest wins aren't 100% our doing, and our worst failures aren't entirely our fault either. And that means we need a healthy dose of humility, whether we're winning or losing.
Okay, so if luck and risk demand humility from us, our own ambition needs a serious guardrail. And that brings us to what might be the single most dangerous psychological trap in all of finance, the endless, soul-crushing pursuit of more.
There's this fantastic story. The author Kurt Vonnegut was at a billionaire's party with his friend Joseph Heller, who wrote Catch-22. Vonnegut points out that their host made more money in a single day than Heller had made from his famous novel in its entire lifetime. And Heller's response was just perfect. He knew something the billionaire didn't. He knew what enough felt like.
And that's the problem, isn't it? It's the sickness of social comparison. The goalpost for more is always moving. As soon as you get what you thought you wanted, you just look up and see the next person on the ladder. It's a race you can't win, and it makes people who have everything do some absolutely crazy things.
I mean, if you want a cautionary tale, look at Rajat Gupta. This guy had it all. Came from nothing, became CEO of McKinsey, worth $100 million. But he didn't feel rich. He'd hang out with billionaires and feel poor. So he risked everything, his reputation, his freedom, his fortune, for more money that he absolutely did not need. And he lost it all because he never stopped to define enough.
So if that endless chase for more is just a trap, what's the real way to build wealth? What's the engine? Well, it's not about making some huge dramatic score. It's something much quieter, much slower, and way more powerful.
The best way to understand it is with this metaphor of an ice age. Now, an ice age doesn't start with some giant, sudden, deep freeze. Nope. It all begins with something you'd barely even notice. It just starts with summers that are a tiny bit cooler than the year before. And because of that, some of the winter snow doesn't completely melt away, it sticks around. And that little leftover layer makes it just a bit easier for next year's snow to stick too.
And you see where this is going. Layer after layer, year after year, it builds on itself until you have a massive, unstoppable glacier. And that, right there, is the magic of compounding. That's how real fortunes are built, not by hitting home runs, but by consistently getting good results that you can stick with for a very, very long time.
And you want to see this in action? Look at Warren Buffett. We think of him as a brilliant investor, and he is. But his real skill is that he's been a pretty good investor for 80 years. Get this, over 99% of his net worth was earned after his 50th birthday. So the real magic isn't timing the market, it's time in the market.
So here's the lesson. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two completely different skills. Getting wealthy takes some risk, some optimism. But staying wealthy, that takes humility. It takes realizing that you have to survive the bad times, the recessions, your own dumb mistakes, so you can be around long enough to let that compounding do its incredible work.
And that brings us to the final and maybe most important question. What's the point? Why are we even trying to build wealth in the first place? The answer isn't about buying more stuff. It's not about luxury.
First, we've got to get one thing straight. Being rich is not the same thing as being wealthy. Being rich is visible. It's a high income, a flashy car. It's about spending money to show people how much you have. But wealth is hidden. It's the money you haven't spent. It's the assets in the bank that are buying you something much more valuable, options and freedom.
And this is so crucial for happiness. Psychologists have found this over and over again. The single most powerful thing money can buy is control over your own time. It's a better predictor of happiness than your salary, the size of your house, anything. Just having a strong sense of control over your life.
And that's it. That's the real prize. The ultimate dividend that wealth pays is autonomy. It's the freedom to wake up every single morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. That is the highest form of wealth there is.
So I'll just leave you with this. Maybe the most important financial questions you can ever ask yourself have nothing to do with spreadsheets or stock picks. They are, what does enough look like for me? And if I had total control over my time, what would I do with it? The answers to those questions, well, that's the only financial plan that really matters.